Horror is a very nuanced area of game development. There's no silver bullet for conveying fear in a successful way. Unlike movies where the creator can very specifically tailor the viewer's experience, games are interactive. That is to say, skills in horror movie making don't necessarily transfer into good game making. Enter Clive Barker.
I'm not anticipating death will stop me. I fully anticipate continuing to make movies after death. I'm joking.
This creative fiend has made a huge range of media, from plays to books and movies, but none of his work is more divisive than a little number released back in 2007 called Jericho.
Holy shit!
A squad-based shooter set in a gothic nightmare that was frankly bizarre.
Would you like to pray with me?
I'm an atheist, sir.
I guess not then.
This game has been sat in my account for 15 years, and I hadn't touched it since then, but for some reason, I had a very negative impression of the game in my head. I always assumed the game was an unequivocal disaster with zero redeeming qualities. They even removed the game from Steam. That's never a good sign. But despite a few great big nuclear flaws, there was more to this game than I gave it credit for. So as always, let's start from the beginning.
We've been waiting an eternity for you.
Jericho has an abrupt start, with the player standing in the middle of a sandy ruin. A storm is raging just ahead, and we're being led by what looks like a demon child. That's a big red flag.
This is where it all started. This isn't real.
It's as real as your soul. Help me.
After being told this child needs our help, we wake up, answer a ringing phone, and get our orders.
When? Oh, shit. Okay. I'll see you at the airfield.
There's a disturbance in the desert, and on our journey over, Ross outlines the team's purpose.
The Army calls what we do covert occult warfare. It's just a fancy euphemism for witches with guns. There was a time when the church would have burned people like us as heretics and monsters. Now, we fight their wars for them.
We're a team of paranormal soldiers working for the government, and an old researcher called Leech has lost his mind, carrying out terrorist attacks across the world. And now he's taken over an ancient military site with the plans to do something awful. We don't know what, but we're being sent in to stop him.
Trust me when I tell you that the team has never faced anything like this before.
What's the plan?
Infiltrate the dig site and neutralize Leech and his cronies before they can open the breach.
The helicopter lands and the whole squaddy pulls up, Avengers style. We've got Sabrina, Dreadlocks, Barrett from Final Fantasy, Generic Soldier Man, Jiggle Physics, and Nazi Revolver Ocelot. Headed by yours truly, Ross, the team's captain.
Alpha, Omega, form 2 fire teams and follow me!
We make our way through a rubble path while the squad bickers back and forth about what they might find here.
I'm picking up something, Captain. There's a tunnel around here somewhere and there's something else, sir.
We do a quick weapons check, then blast our way in. Wow, that was super anticlimactic. Between the level transitions, the majority of lore is outlined. Too much for my liking. I would have preferred this information to be conveyed in-game in a more natural way. Entering the tomb, there's a sudden earthquake and the ground collapses, where out of nowhere the game throws in a QTE. Yes, this game was released during the golden age of QuickTime events, where every game apparently needed one to be considered finished. Except in this game, they're an actual nightmare, scarier than any monsters, because they happen at the most random occasions and will instantly kill you. Like, this dude had a full grip of me here, but when I failed a QTE, he just let me go. Did the asshole drop me out of spite? What is that about? Thankfully, there's basically no load during the QTEs, so you can try and try again until you've memorized every random button pressed to safety. Up ahead, the cave is covered in flesh and blood, and we use our torch to illuminate the way. Gory visuals are a trademark of Clive Barker's design, and it's definitely not missing in this game, which I'm personally gassed about. The closest thing we've got to a Hellraiser game was Dead by Daylight, which just doesn't scratch the same itch. Turning a corner, the squad encounters their first bit of trouble.
Jericho, take cover!
U.S. Army, halt! Show me your hands!
Holding position, a group of emaciated creatures stumble towards us. We order them to stop before arguing over whether or not to open fire.
Hold fire!
Bullshit, man! Look at him! He said hold fire!
These creatures are called cultists, and they're the game's base enemy. Pale corpses with blades for hands that usually attack by rushing the player. They basically run up to you, place their head on a nice silver platter, and ask you to go to town.
Jesus Christ on the crud.
They're easily dispatched, and once defeated, a swarm of flies swoop down and consume their corpses. This happens every time we defeat an enemy. Is it a clever way to limit resource consumption on enemy body count, or is there more to it? Only time will tell. As a first encounter, I think it's handled perfectly. The squad's training kicks in with just enough fear between them as they bicker about what the f*** they're looking at.
Permission to fire.
We heal up and split up, with Omega Team heading to the research center to see Wagwan. Along the way, we find more enemies, and we even see them torturing random people before we engage them. These little touches really set the tone for the world. It's nice to feel like the enemies are doing something when they're not popping out of the ground to ambush us. On the edge of a crater, we run into the child from the start of the game. It wants us to follow, and apparently, hey, we're just cool with that. Stupid fucking idiots. Every corner it leads us appears to be a trap. But eventually, the child leads us right where we needed to go, the entrance to the research facility.
You might want to step back a bit. You should hurry. I don't know how long before it closes again.
Using blood magic, we get the door open, leaving Church and Black outside to cover our 6.
Neat trick.
Our squad's down to 2 now, giving us less opportunity for revives, but I actually prefer this. These smaller breaks from large-scale combat mix up the pace and offer more of a challenge. Inside this facility, the game takes on more of a fear feel, which is an interesting comparison because fear is basically everything this game wanted to be in terms of execution. Fear is an action horror that, despite the focus on combat, still manages to scare the player. Reaching the center chamber, we run into the site's agent, who's under the impression we're with the monsters.
You're one of them! I know it!
I said drop the goddamn gun now!
But thankfully, Rawling knows her.
Boss, can you read me?
I'm here.
We got trouble. Alpha needs backup.
Sit tight. We're on our way.
We can't leave her here.
I'm not asking.
Some shit's going down outside, so we leave Green to recover the data and head off.
Thought you were a priest.
I am a priest.
Well, what about Prague?
I'm also human.
Also, I hate to say it, but the red barrels in this game, they're not explosive. That's a crime against gaming. On the way to Alpha Squad, we have our first run-in with what's known as the explosive cultist.
Company.
Let it get close, it's an instant down.
Oh, yeah.
And at first, they're completely fine, attacking from reasonable angles and only a few at a time. But as the game progresses, these guys become a complete pain, literally spawning at your feet and blowing your squad apart, like a teleporting hooker. Will I keep that joke in? I don't know. We decimate a few more waves before Green radios through, claiming that monsters have breached the walls, so we head over, double time. But arriving, we're too late. Green's been killed. God damn it, anyone but Green. They offered so much to the story.
This is likely to cause a considerable amount of dimensional displacement, sir. You may want to step outside.
The stolen moment is short-lived, mind, because it's ambush time. Stuck on the middle platform, the squad's cornered, mowing down waves of enemies in rather epic fashion. And I am torn about the game's combat. It just doesn't really scratch any kind of itch. Weight and impact are completely missing from the guns. Little things like having no recoil makes it feel like you're wielding a pea shooter. Having an infinite amount of squad revives also removes a lot of the difficulty. I think limiting the amount of revives per level, or at least per combat encounter, would really have improved the overall experience. As it stands, the combat's fun for a while, but struggles to maintain its enjoyability, particularly later in the game. Onslaught survived. Cole is able to stabilize the temporal breach, claiming Leech has opened some kind of portal.
Leech has pinpointed this intersection and made a substantial blood sacrifice to open the dimensional rift.
Interested in why this might be, we head out to investigate.
Leech.
Eventually, Jericho stumbles across a large ritual area where you just know things are gonna go wrong. And as expected, after some mild taunting from Leech,
Your master sent you out to destroy it.
We're attacked by the kings from Dark Souls. They fight with ranged and sweep attacks, using their agility to avoid our gunfire, but they're pretty weak, and once dealt with, we get more context about what we're doing here.
God couldn't destroy his first creation, so he locked it away, banished from the earth so he could start over again. Then he made mankind, and he gave us flaws to keep the balance right. But the firstborn was jealous.
But as I mentioned earlier, this revelation was spoiled in the previous load screen. I feel like the devs were worried people wouldn't be able to follow the story, and so they just added it all in between loading. But man, people.
We were trying to contain it.
What the fuck is that?
Bickering about the moral sanctity of oppressing an ancient demon god, the child arrives again, this time smack bang in the center of what looks like a sacrificial stone. And sadly, there's no get back in the truck option here. Climbing up, it's the old bait and switch. Demon Kitty subs in this messed up YouTube thumbnail face looking demon.
You know what they do to witches, don't you?
And it absolutely ravages us, treating us like a kebab at 3 AM on a Friday night.
It's you he wants.
Oh, shit!
Mortally wounded, the squad tries their best to heal us, but tragically, we're too far gone.
Oh my god, he's fucking dead. What do we do now?
Ross is dead, and without their leader, they run for cover, heading towards the breach with no clear objective. But as the load screen implies, death in the box has a different meaning. And for clarity, the box is the name of the location the game's set in. It's not a reference to some demonic hoo-ha.
I'm still with you.
What?
There's someone in there with him. I can feel it.
Delgado, can you hear me?
Rawlings, it's me, Ross. I don't know what happened. I think I'm in him. Put those away, damn it. It's me.
Turns out Ross isn't down for the count. Using his powers, his soul was able to remain with the squad.
I want you to try linking to Abby. Can you do that for me?
Well, let's see.
This is where the game really comes into its own. Each operator has their own ability and combat style, some offering sick demonic powers, others jiggle physics, really cool sick blades. Jokes aside, some situations will call for specific abilities, but most of the time you just get to play around and find out what works for you. Some abilities are, in my opinion, leagues of power different to others, but hey, that's life. It sucks to suck.
Hey, congratulations, Abby. Now you finally know what it's like to have a man inside you.
Whoa! Inappropriate workplace conduct. Putting our new abilities to the test, we fight through the bunker and arrive in what appears to be the Second World War, marked with barbed wire, concrete walls, and trenches. We've traveled back in time. Buried within these trenches, we encounter a new enemy, unique to the period. A large, minigun-wielding soldier who's merged with his weapon. They're able to take you out from a distance quick, and their bodies are highly resistant to damage, making headshots a must. And this is where Black really shines, using a sniper rifle to pick them off quickly. Taking a path of crushed bodies down, we arrive at a heavy encampment that really captures the World War II vibe, with sirens ringing out and turrets pinning us down. And our team's utterly moronic AI really gets to shine here, because they stand out in the open like lobotomites, eating the turret damage. This was a big sticking point for a lot of people, and it's understandable. The AI is awful in almost every sense. That said, Team AI is a hard thing to get right. Not only because you have to make them behave realistically, but you also have to figure out what they'll do to support the player. So I can 100% empathize with the difficulty of the task, but this just isn't good enough. In any case, we're pinned down, which might be a problem for anyone else, but thankfully Cole has a slow time ability, giving us an opportunity to sneak behind the turrets and yeet in some C4. After repeating that for the other three, Rawlings and Delgado have the most moronic disagreement I've ever seen.
I didn't sign up for no fucking suicide mission.
If you're gonna point that at me, you better use it. What have you done?
Oh, what the hell is wrong with you, man?
Classic Delgado, gut-shotting a lad because he's mildly pissed. Thank the heavens we have our res ability, or this would have been awkward.
You accidentally discharged your weapon.
That was no accident.
Sure. An accident.
This little powwow is rudely interrupted when the game's first big baddie turns up.
You are outmatched. Relinquish your souls to me, or you will suffer eternal torture.
And Helena Strozak, quite the baddie she is. All that leather's got me feeling some kind of way. This gal's a resurrected Nazi, and she ain't here to make friends.
Arrogant from you and feed it to your victuals.
As an encounter, she's a joke. The tactic of run at man to kick him doesn't work so well when you can slow down time and open up a new face cavity. You almost feel bad, but I mean, she a Nazi. After a fine spanking, she jumps back on the wall where an unknown group blast her away, inadvertently saving us, or her, I guess, in the process.
I don't know who those guys are, but they have my thanks.
The way ahead cleared, we're able to push forward and even get permission to control Rawlings, a badass dual-wielding priest. No, this is not Call of Juarez. Shut up.
And the smoke of their torment goeth up forever and ever.
We enter a sewage tunnel where the soldiers mix up their attack, throwing in a flamethrower unit for good measure. Never stood a chance. Leaving the tunnel, we encounter the child hiding behind a locked gate. To get through, we have to use Jones' astral projection ability. Also, the lazy fuckers. He has the exact same weapon as Ross. What was he, twinning with the lad? Jones is second in command, so you could argue that he was just matching the leader's gear, but let's be real. They just done that to keep the assault rifle shotgun in the game. We unlock the gate and head inside, where we encounter...
Identify yourself!
Oh, an Englishman. This squad is part of the British Secret Service, sent in to steal the breach back in the 1940s. At their headquarters, they outline a great deal of context, as we Brits love to do.
God creates this thing, discovers it's too bloody powerful, and decides to wipe it off the face of the earth. But he can't kill it, so he creates the Pixies, this box. It just sits, and it waits for some poor, disillusioned bastard to set it free.
Plot explained, the meeting's interrupted when something opens fire on the building. We're fighting through the ruins of a mosque now, in the company of our English brothers in arms. Our goal is to pass through another breach, but to do so, we need lich ammo, so we agree to go get her.
Let's move!
Her base is heavily fortified with an impenetrable wall surrounding it.
Incoming!
But thankfully, they decided to store their fuel just behind the wall, which is genius. They must have the same architects from the Just Cause universe.
You Yanks aren't very subtle, are you?
Path cleared, we split up with the smaller group heading inside to bag ourselves a Nazi. And at the bottom of said complex, I'll be damned if this giant, out-of-place cathedral isn't an arena. I'm half surprised there isn't a fog wall we have to pass through.
Have you come to join us? We never turn down good flesh, especially not the men of God. How's your faith today, Father?
As expected, we're ambushed by more cultists and the main lady herself, and I have to reiterate, the game does not lend itself to boss battles. The AI just isn't there for it. It doesn't help that the best attack they could offer was a series of spinning high kicks. Shit's hilarious.
Billy, can you pin Lick Hammer with a blood ward?
Once beaten, we use Church's blood magic to subdue her, and from here, Rawlings carries out an exorcism.
Ignore her. Been doing this for 40 years and they still can't think of a single original thing to say.
And what could have been a really cool scene is ruined by their decision to make it a shitty QTE. Not only that, but it's a complete farce. The priest straight up dies if you fail a single QTE because the mean lady nibbled his fingies. I mean, grow the f*** up, Rawlings. The horror in Jericho really is in line with Clive Barker's previous work. The Cenobites are clad in leather and covered in agonizing wounds, just like the creatures that populate these ruins.
I came.
He's made a few games before this, most notably Undying, which had a similar occult feel, although his previous video game endeavors don't hold a flame to Jericho in terms of grotesque creature design.
The gateway to the next level of the Pixis. Somehow she's absorbed it. Made herself the key to opening the breach.
Exorcism complete, we have the breach key, so that's where we head next.
Spill her blood and open the gateway!
We spill Lich Hammer's blood, and in doing so, open another breach. But before heading through, the Brits come over to impart some final advice.
Once you get on the other side, get to the fortress as fast as you can. The Templars will tell you the rest.
Templars, you say? Dearie me, only one thing for it. Through the breach we go. Well, by the power of religion-fueled mass murder, it's the Holy Crusade, circa 1213. Jericho arrives to find a castle under siege, with troops marching and fireballs crashing against the walls. It is an interesting set piece, one of many in the game, which really should have helped it stand out, but unfortunately, it released the same year as Halo 3, BioShock, Assassin's Creed Crysis, and Uncharted, just to name a few. Easy comparisons that would have hurt Jericho's success. In case you hadn't gathered, time travel is a major part of the story, and in my opinion, the game's biggest appeal. I wanted to push forward just to see where and when we'd arrive next, if for no other reason.
Did he say Templars?
As instructed by Almighty, we make a beeline for the castle to meet up with the Templars, trudging through deep pools of blood before passing by the remains of something big. And it's not long before we discover what beast these bones belong to. From the ground, a giant headless, almost canine enemy rises with a metallic mask where its face should be. It sprays lethal bloody mist, and we have to use different runes to take cover and stay alive. Once there's an opening, we have to shoot the plates that embezzle its mask to destroy it. Now, as cool as that encounter was, not a mere 10 steps later, the game goes, hey, that previous section was cool, right? Well, how about 2 of them? That's like twice as cool, right? I don't know why, but this irked me. It's almost childish, like they didn't know what to do next, so they just doubled up. It cheapens the impact. On the plus side, one of these monsters won't sink beneath the ground this time, and here you can appreciate the creature's design. It's fantastic, holds up even today, disturbing and intriguing all at once, with a gated mouth and multiple bodies merging with the skin. But hey, you know what they say. 1 time, 2 time, 3 times a lady. Because they instantly drop another one. 3 encounters back to back. If this isn't a crude pacing mechanic, then I don't know what is. And fighting this last guy, I actually thought he was broken. Because no matter what I'd done, I could not destroy his mask despite shooting it for an age. Turns out, right, get this, you have to possess black and do a QTE finisher to kill this one. Where the f did that come from, and how could we have known? They're ruining this creature's legacy. Arriving at the castle, we attempt to cross the bridge when a flying cultist attacks, destroying the bridge and sending Omega Team tumbling into the abyss. Kinda deserved though. Who sets up defensive positions on a rickety-ass bridge?
They belong to the children now. We must get you inside.
Jericho separated, the remaining few are led into the castle by one of the Templars who pulls off the most epic prank.
It's a trap! I have delivered the heathens as you requested, Your Grace.
Your dedication and sacrifice to our Lord will be greatly rewarded. You and your men have earned your place in the kingdom of heaven 1,000 times over.
Bro really thinks this collapsed demon is an angel. That's crazy, man. Hey, this guy's crazy.
Let them entertain the children.
Trapped, we have to wade through the castle's twisting dungeons, which are claustrophobic and hectic. Deep in the tunnel, we even run into a prisoner who explains the medieval sitch.
Malthius had convinced the Pope that Christian children cannot be harmed by heathen spear tip or arrow, and so a child army arrived 3 days before us and marched against the Saracens. The blood from their slaughter opened the breach.
Yeah, that whole contraption, it looked painful. I was half expecting a doll to roll in and ask to play a game.
What about the bishop? Oh, he's down there still. In the crypt with the children he sent to die.
Heading on, we encounter our first medieval-themed monster, a crossbow soldier. They pack a punch, but travel slow and loud. Provided you're not a dolt, you can dodge them, employing a peep-and-shoot tactic.
Jesus, that was close.
All of the sad fuckers are running an aimbot, shooting us despite facing an entirely different direction. That's just sad.
I'm gonna go check out that tunnel. Don't wait up for me.
Eventually, the team's path is blocked by a gate, and with no other options, Church decides to split up, going solo to look for a way through.
Check your fire, bitch!
Great timing too, because the game's just dropped another enemy, a warrior with sword and shield, the perfect adversary for our bladed witch. A little while later, while climbing down a well, we're ambushed from above. Falling to the bottom, we have a standoff, except this time there's no endless teammate revives, and as I expected, it's an entirely different experience, far more tense and rewarding. You actually have to try to survive. Walking away with no health and heavy breath, I was scared to turn a corner in case I was attacked and killed. This tiny section was infinitely scarier and more tense than the entire rest of the game, and I just wished they had done more sections like this. We open the door, regroup, and make our way through an outside area. Things remain samey for the next while until our squad reach a crypt where shit goes from Old Testament's Armageddon to Ivan Reitman's Ghostbusters.
Is anyone else seeing this?
Spirits will float around us until it takes their fancy and they attack us, whipping us with long tentacle appendages. The game implies these are the ghosts of children, but the models aren't that, they're just floating cultists. Either they ran out of time or they had censorship issues, with the latter being far more likely.
I can feel them. Omega team is close.
Area cleared, we head through another tomb where we encounter the rest of our team, having been hit hard by the ghost's psychological onslaught.
1.6, 180-33988.
Good. Now, let's lower the gun.
7498.
What a fucking nerd, am I right? Anyway, back to my hour-long video essay on a 15-year-old game.
We need to find the next breach and get the hell out of here.
In search of the next breach, we enter the castle's atrium, only to run into Malthus, that Nosferatu-looking dick.
Kneel before me and be cleansed.
What's he saying?
Same shit they told me when I was expelled from Catholic school.
This boss is leagues better than Lichhammer. It has distinct stages of attacking and defending, and it requires some figuring out, hiding behind rubble to avoid its AoE attack, then returning fire when its shields are down. All the while fighting waves of ghost minions. This back and forth lasts a while until the ghost children decide they don't want to put up with this shit anymore.
I loved you. I loved you all. You are my children. My sweet, sweet children.
Ah, the joys of parenthood. They grow up so fast. With the boss destroyed, apart from that bitch-ass Templar that trapped us getting away scot-free, we've wrapped up every loose end in the medieval age.
I think that's our cue to leave.
So we pass through the second breach to see what wonders await us. My word, is that Spartacus I see? Well, this must be the Roman Empire 38 AD.
Al-Khali is about as far from Roman law as you can get. With Emperor Caligula on the throne, I think that's a good thing, don't you?
Following the trail of crucifixions, we're greeted by a new enemy, the Roman Centurion. Another well-themed creature, and what I love about these guys is that they peep above their shields to see what's going on. The stupid fucking idiots. Eventually, the group stumbles across Lanius, a Roman member of Jericho's squad that wants to possess Jones to outline the plan for this time period.
Marcus! He alone can open the breach that leads to the heart of the Pixis!
Jones takes such an L in this game. His only role is to be possessed and to use his astral projection to open gates. He is a dead character.
That was worse than having Ross in my head. No offense.
Moving on and entering a villa from the underground, we get our first real taste of Roman life.
It smells like shit and death in there.
Even giving us another lovely solo section, this time with Delgato. Using his second ability, we're able to pass through this fiery area unharmed. Basically, Delgato's pledged himself to the Frenzied Flame, but as cool as fire and vulnerability might sound, it's literally never used again. Talk about a one-trick pony. Also, I think these fires are supposed to be filling the building with smoke, but all this does is add a weird blurry effect that makes it really hard to see everything and just washes the area out. In any case, we push through, unlock the gate, regroup and clear the building. leaving out the back to arrive at a giant pantheon, which really has no place being out in the desert, but I mean, hey, we're time traveling. I can suspend belief. This grand building is littered with busts of this handsome young chap named Vicus. He's in charge, having been expelled here by the Roman Emperor for being a psychopathic cannibal man-child. Naturally, we have to go through him to reach the breach. Passing through a conspicuously large hall, you take the exit door at the back and get quite the shock.
Something's coming, sir. Something very angry.
A proper moment of panic where you have to backtrack to the open space and lay down some fire. This giant gladiator is a great mini-boss. It's invulnerable to damage aside from a scar on its back. To take it down, you have to serpentine, splitting your squad either side and jumping between them to constantly attack his weak spot. You almost feel like a pack of wolves, working together to take down a much larger animal. I genuinely enjoyed this fight. It was a welcome break from the very formulaic fights that had dominated the majority of the previous areas. Heading deeper into this palace, something that was irking me was all the blood. It honestly looks like the developers made this pristine Roman building and the devs were like, we'll splatter blood everywhere. Like, the splatters don't even look good. They look way lower quality than the environments themselves and 100% look like an afterthought. Battling through to the center of this bastion, we encounter the man himself, looking somewhat gorged.
New guest. Have you come to join the feast?
The area is covered in gore, and I think he wants to add us to the collection.
And what's this? You bring witches with you too? You honor me. It's been so long since I tasted of both sexes.
Sir? Sir, the construction of this floor, sir.
Let's begin. Shall we?
It's a trap, sir!
Yeah, maybe lead with it's a trap, you dumbass. Talking about the material construction isn't much use when we're about to drop. I would say cut to the chase.
Something about this stinks. And for once, it's not me.
But of course, it wouldn't be Roman times without a Colosseum.
Are you not entertained? I've seen this movie.
It's your standard combat affair with waves of enemies, although by this point, the fighting sections were becoming an absolute drag. Governor's pet slain, it's time to confront the beast himself, and he is ready, having hooked himself up to what can only be described as a weaponized mobility scooter. He's a grotesque boss, opening his own stomach and spraying putrid juices as a form of attack. All the while, an unkillable giant is attacking from the center. To beat him, part of the team will have to run round, distracting the giant while we take on the big guy, waiting for him to open his stomach and then blasting him. Rinse and repeat until he's good and dead. Using Black's telekinesis, we push its hanging body to the center, where it acts as a catalyst for another breach.
There it is!
What now? Do we go through?
Where else can we go?
Sadly, our time in Rome is at an end.
I think we better go.
Dear God in heaven.
I don't know enough about Sumerian history to make a topical joke, but hey, it's nice to be here. 3000 BC, big Kyok.
It doesn't exactly look like the seat of all evil to me.
We arrive outside a large structure reaching into the sky. It's very Tower of Babel, a biblical tower created by man to reach the heavens. I imagine that's what they were going for. Just before entering, Jones is possessed again for, you guessed it, another context ghost. He's like a ghostly tour guide.
The demons that guard the temple have each claimed a piece of me. Slay them and reassemble me so that I can reseal the breach, and then the world will be safe again.
So the body of this disembodied voice has been separated and spread across the tower, and he wants us to rebuild him so he can seal the breach, something we just accept without any skepticism. Inside, I'm not really sure what happens next. The team step onto a platform where some Cthulhu-looking statues stare at us, and one by one, the team gets teleported away, resulting in the ghost of Ross flying around a temple until he finds Black and possesses her.
Ross!
I'm here.
God, I hate when you do that.
They don't even remark on what's happening, and what exactly we're meant to do next is anyone's guess.
Double kill.
Blindly exploring this ruin, we find and free Jones, where the two of us encounter a mini-boss, this flame-throwing witch. It is very convoluted. We have to possess one of the bodies above the coffin, use telekinesis to open it, and then take a few shots at the witch, not the coffin. All the while, cultists will attack, the witch will throw fire, and there's only two of us. Needless to say, it was a fucking rough section, especially with Black refusing to take cover and constantly dying. But with patience and persistence, we get there. And once defeated, the first piece of this man's body is returned. Running out, we even bump into Delgato and Rawlings.
Miss me?
After this, there's another mini-boss, but it's far less aggravating. We have to shoot 4 hanging human sacrifices to weaken the witch's power and then finish him off. Another body part restored, and the rest of Jericho's squad even turns up before getting teleported again to seemingly the inside of a beast. I think these random teleportations could be the result of cut content as a way of joining the loose pieces, because this level feels very rushed and disconnected.
Those two are Nana and Utu. They get their power from the flies.
2 more demons attack, but this time they're covered in flies that not only damage us, but also soak up all of our damage, forcing us to do the patented Mad Dash, merch coming summer 2023, legging it around this mess to find infected corpses and blow them up. Demon flies dealt with, these motherfuckers are free real estate. Body parts returned, we teleport back to the breach, where we find, let me get this right, Antarunu, born anew.
I will bind myself to the breach. Once the gateway is closed, we will sleep until we are called on to guide our brothers and sisters once again.
So the grand plan is for Antiboy to close the breach, resulting in Jericho being trapped in a time loop along with all the others in an endless purgatory, something Delgato understandably isn't too keen on.
You believe that bullshit about a dreamless sleep? Am I the only one that's been paying attention?
Look, I understand your apprehension, but...
What about the others? The Templars, the Centurion? They're not dreaming. They're not one with the great beyond. They're losing their minds in purgatory, exactly where we're gonna find ourselves when he closes that breach. That bastard is lying through his gold fucking teeth.
What are you suggesting?
We fight. If I'm gonna die here, I'm gonna die with my hands around the throat of whatever waits on the other side.
I can't let you do that.
Don't even think it.
Yeah, go get him, Delgato. Shoot him in the gut. Shoot him in the gut again.
He's going to destroy everything. There's a whole world outside full of innocent people. You think your life isn't worth saving that?
I think he's right, Paul.
Have you lost your fucking mind?
My mind is the only thing I haven't lost today.
After a back and forth, rather than sacrificing themselves, they decide to try and break the circle, to head in and kill the firstborn, ending this once and for all.
Everything I love is right here.
Sucks for him, I guess. Poor lad never done anything to us, but we blow his head off.
Let's do this. It's your choice, Rawlings. I won't force you to follow us.
Through the breach, the squad's engulfed in water. Swimming out, things instantly go from bad to worse.
Sir, I believe he is going to channel our powers against us. However, if you're currently in possession of... Silence!
In a heartbeat, Cole and Ross 2.0 were destroyed, and the final boss fight begins with the squad instantly down by 2. So, the final boss. It's not awful, it's just anticlimactic. The Firstborn will possess different members of Jericho and use their abilities to attack us. Then we have to hop into said character and use the same ability to damage him in turn. There's a moment where Delgato's flame power is battling the Firstborn's flame like 2 living snakes engaged in combat, but that's about as cool as it gets. Ultimately, for a god, it sure is a little pussy. 4 hits and he throws in the towel, getting tossed around by Abby like a little bitch. Where all of a sudden, Leech, wanting to finish what he started, attacks the Firstborn, flying into oblivion, where we receive possibly the most abrupt ending to any game I've ever seen.
Swim deep!
Okay, so that whole thing is a completely rushed mess, but let's try and make some assumptions about what we just saw. For starters, it looks like the Firstborn's dead, having been killed by Leech, who wanted revenge for his betrayal. After which it would appear that Jericho's squad are stuck in some bizarre land that existed before time itself. But who fucking knows? I scoured the internet for more information, but couldn't find anything concrete about exactly where the issues laid. Many claim there were creative differences amongst the developers, Codemaster and Mercury Steam, although if reading Blood, Sweat and Pixels taught me anything, I imagine they just ran out of money or time.
I guess not then.
The first few time periods we explored were strong with interesting set pieces, but by the time we reached the Sumerian Age, it's little more than a few gimmick bosses and padding.
Those two are Nana and Utu. They get their power from the flies.
It is a shame because there were moments that really made this game interesting, and that's what makes it so annoying. You can so clearly see what the goal was.
You are my children, my sweet, sweet children.
Not long after release, Clive Barker made it clear he was planning a sequel. Now, obviously, this never manifested. Either he lost interest in the project, or the failures of the first game made a sequel impossible. But it would be interesting to see where they took this next. With the squad essentially trapped at the start of time, they could go in a bunch of directions, having Jericho try and fight their way back to present time, or maybe they stay at the dawn of mankind, using their powers to become gods and gradually losing their minds to power, forcing a new squad to take down each member in their newly created domains. I mean, that sounds cool to me. Feel free to take it, Clive.
What have you done?
If you had fun on this little journey into Clive Barker's mind, please remember to like the video and more importantly, hit subscribe. We're very close to 400,000 subscribers and you know, I'd like to hit that. So I'm counting on you, specific randomer, whomever you are, you beautiful bastard.
Rawlings, it's me, Ross. I don't know what happened. I think I'm in him.
A homo.